brand new edition of the Hockey Happy Hour live from our own personal homes, our own personal Real Talk studios, as Chrome would say on Lazy Booking. And I am Matt Sensudi, along with the Darkwing, Brian Daly.
What up? Oh, wrong hand.
And the broken one himself, Mr. Rob Povia. By the way, can you find Gritty this week?
Found him.
I made it easy.
Yeah, I see it. All right. Well, today on the show, it's going to be fun. We are going to put all 31 NHL teams. Yes, we are going to take all 31 NHL franchises. Sorry, Seattle, but you're not official yet. And we will see which one comes out on top and who wins the Stanley Cup if all 31 we're going for it. So, shout out to, of course, Mr. Daly, who thought of the concept, and we will roll with it.
Hey, you know, once in a while, I get a good one.
I need some divine intervention for this show, so that's why Gritty looks so holy tonight.
It does look like Rob's got, but it does look like
all.
Rob's got like a halo going behind him with the whole, light on and everything.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it?
And today's show, as always, brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy, done by Mr. Dr. Paul Vidal. If you got any aches and pains, go see him. You can find him in Princeton, New Jersey. You can find him in Burlington, as well as Cherry Hill. And you can find him at www.specializedphysicaltherapy.com. That is the way to make an appointment right now. You can't physically go in and do it due to the pandemic going on, but you can still make yourself an appointment. You just have to go online. But if you got any aches and pains, go see Paul, and he'll take care of you. The Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy.
And also, Maddie, we can't forget, for all you A2D fam out there, got to go to phillydrinkers.com to get all your gear, T-shirts, hats, jackets, hoodies, mugs, stickers, limited edition T-shirts like this one. We got individual show shirts coming out, so rep your favorite show on the station. If you got more than one, get multiple shirts. Philly Drinkers, phillydrinkers.com. Get all your A2D merch.
Absolutely. And that money goes into A2D to help support us, and we very much appreciate that if you guys have made any purchases. And we got Mr. Tom Arnone chiming in, who is saying, Bri, why you look like you're modeling for your Tinder cover photo?
Because I'm sitting on my bed this week. I'm not sitting on the couch. I got booted out of the room that I usually do the show in.
Bri likes long walks on the beach, getting pina coladas, getting caught in the rain, Well,
what's funny is I actually do not like pina coladas. I don't like really many mixed drinks. The way to my heart is a good beer.
All right, then. For all the ladies out there. And Joseph Horkowski saying, what's up? What's up?
Tinder cover.
Right.
I'm
and
just
Greg
chilling, Tommy. I'm just chilling tonight, man.
Greg saying, what's up,
Keep it
fellas,
casual.
my guys? What's up, Greg?
What's up, Greg?
And today, Tom's saying close-up talk. And Rosca chiming in, I want hockey to be back with no fans. Well, it may happen. Who knows? There have been the talks. So,
yeah, I think they said baseball is going to get an announcement this week, and I think they said hockey, I think, was in the next couple weeks or something like that.
All right, then. So
try and get something by July.
Hopefully. But with that being said, though, guys, 31 teams, one Stanley Cup to award, and it is time for us to dive into this. So
let's get nuts.
Yeah.
You want to get nuts? Right. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Because this is fucking bonkers crazy. All right, before we start, I want to ask you, what's the likelihood that you think this would actually happen?
Not very likely.
31 team bracket. I don't think it's actually going to happen. But
by the way, that is
the concept to play with, though.
Oh, that doesn't stop it from being fun and getting some juicy hockey talk out of it. And
absolutely.
Any possibility is a possibility. So
I got a couple shockers in there for you.
Now, with that being said, though, that is also the poll question. Will this ever happen? Will the NHL actually go through with this? Agree or disagree? That is the option that you guys have out there. So feel free to give your feedback on that poll. Should be a pretty slam dunk answer. Joseph saying 0%. So I think we know where he's leaning towards.
And I agree with Joseph 100%. I completely disagree with the poll. I think that in a short amount of time, a 31-team bracket is going to be too much, especially if they're trying to set up and get everything played for the next year in October.
Right.
So, I mean, I think we see a slightly extended bracket, but, you know, obviously we're not going to see all 31 teams.
I think if they had the time to do a 31-team tournament, they would probably finish the regular season and just have the normal tournament. That way they can get the TV revenue completing the regular season, and players can get their bonuses and incentives accordingly.
Absolutely.
True.
I think that'll work, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what Bettman decides to do.
But this would be just an opportunity to do something great. And I hear you, Joe, 0%, you know, we don't know right now. So it's a good opportunity to talk about and see what potential teams that wouldn't have made the playoffs, if they would have a shot to upset a team that would have in a normal format. This would be great.
What the heck just happened?
I don't know. We lost you for a second.
I bored you to death, so you went away.
We all disappeared for a second. We showed up in different spots.
Yes.
So with that being said, guys, let's get started. Now, I did run things, for me, personally, I ran things 7 games all the way through because, fuck it. If we're going to go balls to the wall, we're going all the way. We're not fucking half-assing shit here.
To answer
All right.
Greg's question real quick, he said, Greg Milakovic says, would they be a 1-game brackets or a best-of-3 series? I think what they could do if they do a 31-team bracket, I think the best idea would maybe do best-of-3 through the first 2 rounds, maybe do a best-of-5, and then best-of-7 in the conference and Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah. That's been universally. Yeah, and that's been universally requested. That at least the Stanley Cup Finals, if not the Conference Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals, be 7 games. And no matter what the format, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, then. Let's go, guys. Let's get started off here. I'm going to kick things off on the 31-team bracket side here. Obviously, we all know that the Boston Bruins, because they were the #1 ranked team in the NHL, they get a bye in the first round, so they do not have to see first-round action. However, same cannot be said for the St. Louis Blues, who are the #2 ranked in the NHL. They would draw the last-place Detroit Red Wings.
We got to do better communication, because the way I broke it down was a typical Western Conference, Eastern Conference, broke it down that way, 1 versus 8.
Oh, well.
So my bye team is actually St. Louis Blues, so
okay.
I got them on the bye.
All right, then. So Boston's also obviously the bye for the Eastern Conference for you.
Nope. Even number teams in the Eastern Conference.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Only 1 bye.
Yep, only 1 bye team, and it's the St. Louis Blues.
All right, then. So with that...
Why the pregnant one?
When's it due, when's it due?
Why can't you put me on like a Fabio body or somebody that's actually like in shape? You got to give me the fat guy with the wheelbarrow and a pregnant lady. Yep, that one.
Oh, all right. So with that, let's get started here. St. Louis and Detroit for me. This is a sweep. Sorry. Don't know what you want me to say. Dylan Larkin will try, but I don't think it'll be enough. Not against St. Louis, it won't. This is a sweep.
Nah, I got Boston and the Red Wings, and on the Eastern Conference side, I got Boston winning that. I have no games just because we don't know what the scenario would be, but I got Boston winning that series.
All right, then. Moving on.
I think the Red Wings could put up a little bit of a fight, because if memory serves me correctly, didn't they start off the season kind of warm, if not hot, like maybe like a 2 record before things started falling off? Since there's such a gap in time in play, maybe history repeats itself a little bit. Not enough to beat either of the 2 teams that you're talking about, fellas, but maybe to take a game.
Oh,
in
I
the best
absolutely.
of three.
Yeah, I actually think they could. Offensively, they're not a terrible team. They have some good guys in that lineup. Defensively, they still need some help. Goaltending, I think that's kind of like a little bit of a lost cause for them at the moment.
Mm.
Like I don't even remember who their goaltender is anymore. I don't know if it's still Jimmy Howard or not, but I mean, they got players that can make a difference on that team. I just against a team like Boston, or I don't know what your bracket's looking like, Rob, but a team like St. Louis or Boston, it's hard to say that they have a shot against two elite teams in the league.
Much like some of the guys in Animal House, I have no grade point average, and thus I have no bracket. So I'm actually creating mine on the fly as we go on the show. So this will be really fun.
Hey, it's all good, man.
All right, then.
I have no grade point average.
Jonathan Bernier, I believe, was starting
Okay.
over Jimmy Howard, but I'm not 100% on that.
No, that actually sounds about right. That sounds about right. Now that you mention that, it does sound right that Jonathan Bernier is out there. I don't think he really makes much of a difference, though. He's always been a good backup, but he's not much of a starter.
No, it's certainly not. And Jimmy Howard falling off a cliff too doesn't help.
No, I always like Jonathan Bernier. I think he's a solid goaltender, but like I said, he's not anything special. I don't think he's good enough to get through that series.
Truth be told.
All right, then. So with that, we move on to our next matchup. For me, it is 3-30 since I was doing the entire NHL and ranking all the way down, and I have another East versus West matchup. Ironic how I have to say Detroit is an East team now, but Colorado on the West side, number 3 in the entire NHL against number 30, the Ottawa Senators.
Oh, now that's a bloodbath right
Yeah,
there.
it is. Yeah, it
Oh.
is.
Now, the Colorado Avalanche, though, I do believe take this series. I was flirting with the idea of getting Ottawa one game in Ottawa, but then I kind of pulled back on it. It's like, nah, I'll still go with the sweep here. I think Colorado will take care of it.
I got Colorado versus San Jose as my top matchup in the Western Conference. Obviously, we know what team the San Jose Sharks have actually become. Not the team I expect them to be. The worst team, I believe. No, the worst team in the West. And ay caramba, did they really fall off? Colorado wins that series very handily for me.
That would be a revenge match, actually, because last year San Jose beat them. So, revenge. Rob, what about you?
In my scenario right here, I would have Ottawa versus St. Louis. Actually, I'm sorry. Yeah. We're on the second matchup. I would have Ottawa versus St. Louis with Boston having the bye. And I'm going based on points on the season. Boston's 100 to St. Louis is 94 to lead all of the NHL. Same type of synopsis. I mean, maybe against St. Louis, like Ottawa could do a little something more than say with the Colorado a matchup, but that might be just another classic example of me undervaluing what St. Louis does. And they were slipping a little bit towards the end of play, but I mean, I think in the end they got to come out triumphant over the Senators. There's no doubt about it.
The one thing about the Senators I do like is some of their offensive weapons. Obviously, you got Brady Tkachuk. You have sleeper and Anthony Duclair, who I was surprised didn't get traded at the deadline. And then Bobby Ryan seems to have found a little bit of his game since coming back from alcohol rehab. So, that's great to hear. I know he hasn't had the best story in his career, especially since leaving Anaheim. So it's nice to see him finding some kind of a step forward and a progressive step. So I could definitely see the Senators winning a game or two, but ultimately they're not. Colorado is another team that's really been elite all season long.
Absolutely.
Any chance the Senators, like in a best of 3 scenario, are they able to take 2 out of 3 and create an upset there, or maybe just the one game?
I mean, it's tough. I could see them in a best of 3 getting 1 for sure.
Right.
But I don't know. Like you have a lot to worry about when it comes to the Colorado Avalanche. Now they have all kinds of depth scoring. Their defense has always been solid, and their goaltender has been playing out of this world all season long. So they've been a really complete team for the most part up until the play stoppage, and there's a reason why they're number 2 in the Western Conference.
For sure.
All right, then. So
Joe goes, got to be hard to be a recovering alcoholic when you're locked down in your house with nothing to do. Yeah, truth be told. Truth be told. Earlier on, he commented, he said, instead of the cup, they should do a 31-team tournament, and the further you get, the more players you're allowed to protect in the expansion draft for those Seattle murder hornets.
That's actually not a bad idea. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Joe, what would you have as the max number of players you would want to protect? Like what?
And
so obviously we get what 7 total. So add 1 to every round you get to.
I don't know. It's a good question, but I see what you did there. By the way, with those murder hornets, yeah, I see what you did there. Anyway,
it wasn't me. It was Joe.
No, I know.
2020 can bite me.
Yeah.
All
right, moving on to the next
start turning around for me.
A friend of mine.
This is what happens.
A friend of mine posted up first coronavirus, now murder hornet, and now this, and it was a picture of the sun setting in the distance, and it looked like Godzilla in front of the sun. No truer meme has been posted.
Well, the one thing you did forget to mention is the fact that apparently they're starting to show proof of alien life.
Oh, Jesus.
I did hear about that, and I got really excited. I'm not going to lie.
Time to move to my bunker. I'll see you guys. It's been real.
Well, let me put this out before we move on to the next round. There's millions, hundreds of millions, possibly billions of galaxies out there. There's no way we're the only life in all those different galaxies in the universe. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say.
For those out there who wish to talk about the grand conspiracy theories or the possibility of life outside of Earth and its galaxy, feel free to throw your comments in this way. But anyway, moving on. Brian will be glad to answer all of them.
Hey, listen, the older I get, the more I'm becoming a conspiracy theorist, and it's really starting to scare me. I'm getting frightened a bit.
All right, so
I don't like it.
With that, we move on to the next matchup for me, and I have the number 4 seeded Tampa Bay Lightning in the entire NHL against the number 29th San Jose Sharks, the worst team of the Western Conference. And, I can't really say much about this series. This is a Tampa victory. San Jose, at the end of the day, they'll try, but I don't see them winning this series at all. There's no way they can win this.
I have the Lightning in the second series of the first round. I have them actually facing off against the Ottawa Senators. I also have them winning that round. Unfortunately for Ottawa, I like some of their weapons. I like some of their pieces there, but Tampa Bay is good, and they are known for choking in the postseason, but a team like Ottawa, there's no way that they come out of that round alive.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Okay, so we will move forward. And starting off here, Frank saying, I heard aliens. Joe Thornton looks like one without that stupid beard, but he looks more tolerable to look at.
Aliens.
It's kind of funny that he brings that up because I saw the video. He needs to wear a shirt at all times. I'm sorry. Like, I know he's getting up there in age. He's what, 39, 40 years old? I know that the body doesn't always hold up, but he needs to wear a shirt. I'm sorry.
I think he's 38, I think.
Well, either way.
I mean, that's close enough to 40, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's when you round up, right?
Not body shaming. I'm not body shaming, I promise.
Are you sure? Sounds like you are.
He's 40. My fault.
All good.
He's part of the 40 club.
Close enough.
All right.
Shit, we're in our prime, baby.
Yeah, man.
Rob, what you got in your next matchup? Your third or your fourth? No, your third. My bad. I forgot about the bye.
Right.
Third matchup.
My third matchup would
Dad bought Thornton. I like it.
be speaking of Joey Thornton, would be San Jose, Colorado. And that, I mean, I'm trying to find an upset here, but how dare I go for one of the California teams that have just been getting roughed up this season? Nah, I mean, I got to say Colorado takes that in a sweep. They got all three facets of the game rolling, from offensive forwards, strong offensive forwards, defensive minded, blue liners, as well as some guys that can score. I mean, rookie Kale Mocker, Ryan Graves. We've talked about him on the show countless of times. I don't really see a chink in the armor here. That's why I had them representing West in our previous bracket. So not going to go against them here.
Well, it's funny because the Sharks on paper are a very, very good team. Marty Jones has not been playing well. Logan Couture has not really been much less of what he usually is. And they've had to battle a bunch of really tough injuries. Eric Carlson hasn't been even close to what he was in Ottawa. And then Brett Burns is taking a step back as well. So all the guys that they should be relying on, not really showing up. It goes to show you how important that Joe Pavelski was on that team. That hockey is a game where they always say we. There's never an I.
Yeah.
But it seems like Joe Pavelski was really the heart and soul of that team, and it's showing. It's showing big time.
Yeah, big time.
Whoa. Whoa. I think I like the pregnancy one better.
That one is pregnant. A2D alien talk.
What are you gonna do?
All right then. So, and Rob saying,
for the record, Andy, no, they haven't been officially eliminated yet. They're still mathematically in the playoffs, but they won't make it.
And the hashtag ducks blow at the end there, but
trying to avoid that.
What I was just saying, it's there, just letting the people know in case they didn't see it.
Let the people read.
Yeah, well, but we're here for the people, so they want to hear us. So therefore, we give them what they want. All right. With that being said, though, Ralph was saying, and to think the Flyers are going to win the Cup, haven't heard that in a million, times already. And
it doesn't matter if they were going to win the Cup this year. They're set up to win for multiple years.
I know. It's just, what will happen if the Flyers wind up not winning next year? They're going to say, oh, it was that year. It was the year that the season shortened out. Like, don't make excuses. Hey, what's going on, Ryan?
Hey, guys.
What's up, Ryan?
Yeah, good friend of mine, Ryan Clifford, joining the Hockey Happy Hour tonight. He's a content author, editor, one of my compadres for Elite Sports Network. A couple other things. He was a 2019 FSWA nominee for College Sports Writer of the Year. He writes NHL, which is why we invited him on the program. He, obviously, college football and NFL content, all for Elite Fantasy. You can find them at Elite Fantasy HQ. Ryan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. This is our first face-to-face kind of meeting, so
are you
working together for 2 years, and yeah, right.
Well, Ryan, we're happy to have you, man. We're happy to have you.
Am I allowed to wear my Sabres hat on? The Philly guys.
I mean,
hang on, wait.
I can do like this.
It's okay, man.
All right,
it's all right. It's all right, man. You can wear the Sabres.
If he's gonna rep the Sabres, I'm gonna rep my boys.
I mean, obviously, full transparency. Full transparency. I mean, yeah, I hate the Buffalo Sabres only because of the early 2000s when the Sabres were good and the Flyers were old. But I will say this though: we used to have Penguins fans and Devils fans hosting with us, so it's not bad. You're fine. You're perfectly fine. Yeah.
All right then.
All right. So with that being said, though, we were going through our 31 team brackets, and we kind of all did it differently because we haven't communicated properly, and so I ranked the entire NHL from 1 to 31. Bri did it by conference, so he's got the East set up and he's got the West set up. Rob's making his on the fly. Ryan, were you? Did you had a chance to make a bracket, or were you just running around?
I didn't
and
make one.
Gotcha.
I figured I'd just come on and be a judge.
All right, cool. Sounds awesome. So, with that being said,
very good qualified judge too. He's been running Sims, NHL playoff Sims
That's right.
throughout our sites or whatnot. Gotten a lot of fan favor. Maybe you want to talk about those a little bit, Ryan. How has that been operating for you?
It's been kind of a pain in the.
You can
I
say.
say?
you can say, yeah.
To be honest, but I'm just trying to do something. So we were doing the Sims, and the Flyers actually made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, lost to the Bruins. But yeah, I'm almost done. One more series left. We got the Bruins and the Blues again.
Hey,
all right.
that's pretty fair. I mean, in past brackets that we've done, I mean, I've given the Flyers a little bit of credit, a little bit of homerism, but that's where I think they go. I think that's where their run would have taken them had the season not been interrupted. And I can see with like experienced head coaching staff where you have 3 former head coaches in the league on their coaching staff, they can get them back. It's their job to get them back in the state of mind, ready to play. But it's going to be hard to be a team like the Boston Bruins or even the Tampa Bay Lightning, as I had it in my bracket. Either one is been pretty dominant this year. So, we'll see how it goes. Definitely give this a go. This is a fun activity to really try to pick and see if we can get any upsets going on.
All right, where did we leave off here?
We were on our 4th matchup. So, with that, my 4th matchup that I have here was Washington, 5th overall in the NHL against the 28th overall, the Los Angeles Kings. Which, yeah, this isn't a good situation for the Kings. I mean, were the Caps dangerous towards the end there? No, not necessarily. They were kind of slipping. They were getting back to form. But against a team like the Kings that have been they're ready for a rebuild. They need it right now. It's pretty much a capital sweep. I can't really see the Kings getting a win here, even in the Staples Center.
Well, I got the Kings and the Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously Vegas is going to take the Kings, but with the Kings, they still have some good pieces, but I don't think they stay in LA much longer because of the rebuild. Guys like Kopitar, he deserves another opportunity to win. He's starting to get up there. I believe he's floating around my age at 32, 33. And, he can't build around a guy like that because by the time the Kings are going to be ready to go again, he's going to be closer to 30, 36, 37. How much more time are you going to have with him as your captain? And it's the same thing with Jonathan Quick as well in net because he's another guy who's starting to get up there. He's been around 2 cups. He deserves another chance to win. How long are you going to rock with him in net too with this rebuild? You don't know how long the rebuilds are going to take. So you're going to see key pieces like that and start to become available shortly. So the Kings are only going to get worse before they get better.
Yeah, fair enough, man. And I mean, in terms of a future landing spot, I'm not sure if contract eligibility would warrant for him for, time served, so to speak. But to Joe's point, could we see Kopitar on the new Seattle team and exposed in the expansion draft?
I don't know. I think right now Kopitar is going to be one of the protected guys.
Right.
And I also believe he has a full no movement clause in his contract as well, which is probably going to help keep him in LA as long as humanly possible. I don't think he gets picked up in the draft.
That's what I wasn't sure about or what have you. So, I mean, from a Seattle standpoint, I mean, you'd like like a veteran guy like Kopitar to come in and sort of help build a new franchise. But do you think, like Ryan, do you think there's any likelihood or he's going to stay in LA come expansion draft time?
I think Kopitar will stay in LA. I think Dustin Brown's probably a name to look at for Seattle. He's got a big contract, which they'll be looking to pick up some of those to fill up that cap space. And he'll be old, so I don't know that he's going to get protected. And he still produces, so.
Yeah, it gives that veteran leadership on and off the ice too there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the captain anymore. Obviously, they stripped him and gave him an A. Put the C on Kopitar, but he's a name that's being floated around there that would be available from LA. I think he would be a good option because of his leadership ability. His contract, like Ryan was saying, Seattle's going to be looking for a bunch of contracts to fill up that cap space. So they'll take some bad contracts. And I think he could be an essential part of building a decent franchise in Seattle. I don't think we're going to see another franchise like Vegas. Depends who they hire as your GM. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, that was
Also,
certainly something special. Yeah.
yeah, it also depends on who's available too, because I mean, teams at the end of the day, they're obviously different than they were a few years back when the Golden Knights came in. It depends on where the teams are at. It's like, all right, we can afford to lose this guy, we can't afford to lose that guy. I mean, for all intents and purposes, when people looked at the Golden Knights and they made their expansion draft, not many people thought they were going to be anything. Next thing you know, they're winning a division title and they almost won a Stanley Cup. They literally went all the way to the final. And if it wasn't for Washington, we could have seen a trophy land in the desert, but not Arizona. Boy, that would have been a kick in the nuts to them. But anyway.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting to see that, which is why I bring up the point. Depends on who they bring in as their GM. If they bring in a good enough GM like Vegas did, and they bring in the right coach, you never know, because that team in Vegas wasn't they weren't great, but they built that roster well with decent players. They filled the bottom six players with role players, and they got defensive two-way defensive players. They really built that team extremely well.
All right,
Yeah,
then.
for
So,
sure. Wait, real quick, Maddie. Wayne Blackniak brings up a name. I don't know the likelihood of it. I'll throw it out to you guys. What about Drew Doughty? Would that be a guy that the Kings would look to retain and still build around, or could he be exposed for the expansion draft?
Ryan, why don't you start us off here on Drew Doughty?
I don't think that I see LA letting him go unprotected, despite the contract, despite decline in performance. I don't know. I don't know. He's still one of the top defenders in the league, in my opinion, and I don't know. I don't see them leaving him unprotected.
Yeah, I'm with Ryan. Doughty's another one. He's pretty much the heart and soul of that defense. He plays a very physical game. He's a presence on the ice, despite rebuild or not. He is still one of the top defenders in the NHL, and I think for all intents and purposes of the rebuild, I think he's the guy you want when you start bringing up some of those younger defensemen. He's a guy you learn from.
He's still only 30 years of age, too. He's not long in the tooth yet. So, I mean, yeah, I think they continue to build around him. Like Ryan's point, still one of the, top 10, easily top 10, if not creeping in the top 5 defenders in the league. That'd be a hard piece to break away from.
And plus, also, I think LA, it went in terms of their rebuild. I don't think they go into an expansion draft, looking to leave players unprotected and get nothing for them when they could deal them and get more for them. Like obviously, in an expansion draft, unless you make a trade with that team so that they therefore pick something else that you want them to pick, that's possible. Some teams did that with Vegas, but in LA's case, since they want to rebuild, the smart thing for them to do would be either during draft time or during any period during the offseason, say, you know what? Let's see what we can get for these guys because we got to rebuild and we got to get something for them. Or in other words, the rebuild's going to take a lot longer than we want it to.
Right. Trade's more likely because if he's looking to get out of LA, which been some reports of that, you're set up to get max value there. You know what I mean? Instead of just maybe shedding contract dollars.
Yeah, I saw Wayne's comment. It kind of flashed through there, but I did catch it. He did say Drew is happy and unhappy in LA. It's possible that maybe he gets traded. Whether or not he goes in the expansion draft, I think it's highly unlikely.
Yeah, certainly. All
right, then. So, on to our next matchup. So, the next matchup for us is, let's see here. Oh, there's the fun one. Hey, Bri, you know who I got next?
The Buffalo Sabres?
No, not yet. They're coming up in a minute. But Mr. Daly, next matchup. It is the Philadelphia Flyers meeting the Anaheim Ducks.
Well, it was a good run, boys. We'll see you next year.
Yeah, the Flyers will take this one. I will say this. I did give you guys a game. I didn't say it was a sweep.
Oh, how kind of you.
Yeah, I figured, all right, they'll take one in the Honda Center, but the Flyers will take it at home and make sure that it's all said and done there. So, just for you, Bri, one win.
Oh, you're so sweet. I got the Capitals and the Devils. Believe it or not, this is one of my upsets. I got the Devils upsetting the Capitals just because you need an upset.
You got thrown in there, right?
I have no reason. I really honestly don't think they beat the Capitals, but you gotta have an upset somewhere.
What'd you think about that one?
Well, in order for that to happen, what would need to happen?
Oh, Devils need to expose Holtby and take advantage of any power play opportunities that they can get. Stay out of the box, keep Ovechkin off the ice and off the scoreboard. That is probably the biggest things that they can do. We know that defense is. What did he say?
He's saying we'll take the Flyers in a sweep.
Stop it! Stop it, David.
All right, maybe if we rewound the tape to like 6 years ago, I could see that possibly happening.
Round the tape to 2007. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, take advantage of special teams, power play opportunities, expose Holtby. We know they got a dynamic offense in Washington. If you can keep Ovi off the scoreboard, and we've seen it multiple times, you keep him off the scorecard, you're more than likely to win a game.
All right, then. So we will now go to Ryan. What did you think of the series? Who do you think wins between the Caps and the Devs and the Flyers and the Ducks?
I mean, the Flyers are. There's nothing much to say about that one. The Devils, I could see the Devils having a shot. We know one of the Capitals' strengths is their power play. And the penalty kill happens to be one of New Jersey's biggest strengths. So, I think that they could, prevent too much from happening, man down. And it just, I don't know. They moved a couple pieces out at the trade deadline. I don't know that their roster is deep enough to hang in if we're doing 7-game series with the Caps. They've just, the bottom 6 of their forwards is pretty much all AHL type players.
Yeah, especially since trading Blake Coleman to Tampa Bay. Yeah. Sami Vatanen went to Carolina.
Simmons.
A couple moves made. Yeah, Simmons to Buffalo.
What's up, Chrome? Hey, Brodo, can we go back to, thank you. Andy Ritz chiming in saying, Ryan, let me get your thoughts on the current state of hockey and what the season could look like pending a return. Do they try to set up in one city like Vegas or let the teams travel from city to city?
I think at this point it's pretty clear if they come back, it's going to be one of these one cities or a couple different cities throughout the continent, I guess, where each division would play. There'd be no fans in the stands. I honestly don't see the season coming back. I think they're just going to end up scrapping this season and starting next year, maybe around December. That's my guess.
All right, then.
But again, it all depends on how everything goes with this pandemic.
Yeah, we don't know how long this is going to last.
Right. And to Ryan's point too, there's been a lot of theories that over the course of the summer, as it gets hot, we're going to see the coronavirus start to wane and numbers to go real low. But then when fall comes around and flu season, that second wave, and that would be when the most likely proposal by the players would be coming back to play the playoffs in August and September to get ready for a later start to the next season. I mean, I always try to side to optimism, but it's plausible, man, because if that second wave comes, you don't want to put players and their families' lives just for the sake of TV revenue, for the sake of, where in years past when we had a strike, there wasn't a cup finals that year. That was for, important reasons, but not life-threatening reasons. So it's on the table. I'd hate to say it. I'd like to see something unique come about, but safety's got to be paramount.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're focusing mainly on is the safety of the players and the crews and the front offices and anybody involved in the game. And I think that's why they're taking their time and they're not rushing to put the product back out there. I think the NHL is willing to bite the bullet for scrapping the season and that money loss. And they know that the fan base will be back because it's not a situation where, ownership is being greedy or players are being greedy or whatever. It's a situation that nobody can really control. And then I think whenever they decide to start playing again, the fan base will be back.
Yeah, true. Very, very true. Rob, what did you have for your matchup here?
Let me get back to my handy dandy standings here. And for my next matchup, well, I had the Caps in the 5th seed behind Tampa Bay. So they're going to be facing off against Anaheim. So same matchup as one of you boys had, or a similar matchup. No, because it was Anaheim Flyers. It actually mixes and matches your matchup. And in that case, I don't think the Ducks have enough scoring power to really match Holtby. I mean, I know Holtby had his struggles during the season, as any goaltender through year to year in this league. I mean, you look at Henrik Lundqvist; he's had down years during his career. Holtby is enough of a veteran that with this time off and coming back, right, would just be lights out and would be. I'm sorry, I'd have to expose the Ducks in this one. Sorry, Roscoe, no hate mail.
It's funny that you said, that to Rossi and not, to me. It's all good. Listen, I get it. Anaheim is not good. They haven't had any real source of offensive for like 3 years.
Right.
Always bottom of the barrel in offense. Special teams always starts off hot and then just goes ice cold. Defense is always sketchy in front of Gibson, which makes him look even worse than he is.
Right.
So I get it. In the series I have with the Ducks, I don't have the Ducks winning. I'm a realist.
Yeah. I mean, that's a beauty part of hockey, though, is that even under normal circumstances, any team can get hot as long as they punch a ticket. And in this scenario, everybody's got a ticket. It's like, everybody's going to the chocolate factory on this one. So, I mean, I hate to keep on going with the favorites, but I couldn't find a scenario there where they would be victorious. I mean, could they get hot goaltending, Brian?
It's they could, but unfortunately, Anaheim's defense has been, they leave him out hanging out to dry way too much, and it puts Gibson in bad positions, and he gives up some really fat, bad rebounds from time to time, and teams seem to capitalize on it, and a lot of that has to do with the defense in front of them.
Right.
And so I guess obviously we go to the judge. I think he.
Yeah, these early matchups are going to be tough because what you've got is a bunch of teams that before the trade deadline shipped off a bunch of good players, and they're all playing against teams that at the trade deadline brought in a bunch of good players. So you got a lot of mismatches going on with these first few games.
Yeah.
I mean, the Caps win for sure.
Yeah. All right, then. So moving on. Next contest here.
I ain't even met.
For me, I have the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New Jersey Devils. So I get to see both teams that I hate just absolutely destroy each other. That's a fun situation. This one, though, does go to Pittsburgh. I think the Devils, though, have a couple of victories. Only because the Penguins did have a little bit of struggling during the year. However, though, the break will definitely benefit them. They were having problems with getting Crosby to score, which is crazy when you think about that. It's like when you're not having Crosby on the scoreboard and he's your best player on your team and the best player in hockey right now, damn, that's bad. Like, that does not look good on your team. But to be fair, though, Pittsburgh will definitely be helped with injury problems and stuff like that. The break helps them in that regard. But I would say I think the Devils will fight them hard, though, because of the fact that they literally destroy each other. No one advances. But yeah, I think the Devils will fight them hard, mostly because they're a division rival. And when you're facing a division rival, it's a different vibe than when you're facing someone that you very rarely face. I think Devils will fight them hard, but the Penguins come out on top of this. I gave them 6, so I would say Penguins in 6.
I got Edmonton and Anaheim. I'm not even going to go into that one.
Next.
Rob.
Too much speed for Anaheim to even keep up with.
In my playoff bracket, here's where it gets interesting. As much as, praising the Flyers and how they could come out of this break, matching their equal level of play because of the experience behind the bench, my matchup would be Flyers Devils. And that's been historically not the greatest of matchups for the Flyers. And we did raise some points that the Devils could do some things. They've had a very strong penalty kill on the year, and that was an area for the Flyers that wavered. I believe it was as low as 16th in the league and as high as 7th in the league. So, if it's that colder version of the team coming out, maybe they might be able to sneak games. I mean, I don't think they would beat them in a 7-game series. But if we're assuming that these are 3-game series to not make this like an epically long tournament, could I see the Devils, pulling some weird shit to get 2 games? Yeah, I could, but I'm still not going with them. I can't.
Heard that.
All right, judges.
Yeah. This is the Flyers got this all the way.
All right then, and obviously the Edmonton one that's yeah. All right then.
I don't think Jack Hughes gotten enough experience. He was in and out of the lineup this year, and the Devils would be just happy to get that number 1 draft pick to get a nice choicey, tasty matchup there. You
got to be a little worried if you're the Devils. You got to be a little worried about Hughes. Just in comparison to some of the last few drafts, the high picks. He had a rough rookie year.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, he sure didn't exactly light it up either. I mean, he's had his moments.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you look back at the draft the last couple of years, they never really had any like real franchise-changing players. Obviously, we know Nico Hersher and Jack Hughes can play, but they're not guys that you're gonna like single out and build franchises around. They're guys that you're gonna plug in. They have top 6 talent for sure, but it's not like bringing in a Patrick Kane or a Patrick Laine or Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, just to name a couple guys. They're good. They're good role players. They will put points up, but they're going to be guys that they're going to need steps. And I think once they take those couple steps, get a couple years under their belts, I think you see a whole different Hersher and Hughes. It took Quinn Hughes a couple years to get to where he is.
Well, also we have to keep in mind they've had issues with coaching too. Hines wasn't exactly working out in New Jersey, and that did not help them in any way, shape, or form. I mean, it took a while for them to finally just say, you know what, this guy is not working here, and they finally fired him. But again, though, I think that over time, I think they need to find a coach that fits them too. There's a few things that they got to do to really get that team's ball rolling before they can even talk about finishing rebuilds or even properly start rebuilding.
Well, they might be finding that coach sooner than later. I heard they're interviewing or they're interested in Gerard Gallant.
Yeah, that'd be a good matchup. That'd be a good choice. We got a question coming in for you, Ryan. Andy comes again with, Ryan, what got you into hockey? Who were your favorite players growing up? And do you have a favorite game or moment, as a fan?
Yeah, so I grew up in Buffalo. I started playing hockey when I was about 6 years old and have played all my life. So I think just playing kind of got me into it, and being in Buffalo where the games are on TV every night. And my favorite players growing up, the era that I grew up in, was like LaFontaine, Alexander McGillney for the Sabres. And then obviously that was in the middle of like Wayne Gretzky's big run, Brett Hall, players like that. Favorite game or moment? My favorite game/moment, I think, was I was fortunate enough to go to the first Winter Classic, which was Sabres Penguins in Buffalo, probably about 10 years ago now, maybe more. And that was just, remember that was before any of these other outdoor games had ever happened. So it was kind of like a magical experience, something that you'd never seen before. And to be in the middle of it, the snow started coming down, stuff like that was pretty amazing.
Oh, that's got to be amazing. Sounds amazing. I remember watching that on TV and having to go to work in the third period, finding out that it only went to overtime later. I was like,
Oh man, yeah, that was an interesting time when they were experimenting with outdoor games. Now there's 50 million of them.
Yeah,
It's lost
absolutely.
its luster a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep. And real
Yeah.
quick, if you're just joining us, we have Ryan Clifford joining us on the Hockey Happy Hour. You can find his work at Elite Fantasy HQ on Twitter. He writes for Elite Fantasy, Elite Sports Betting as well. Once we get sports up and running, and with NHL specifically, good betting tips to be found. You can follow his work. What's your Twitter handle again? Is it just at
Ryan Clifford? Yep.
At Ryan Clifford. Pretty basic. Cool.
Yeah.
It's easy to remember.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to get in right when Twitter started and got that handle right away. So
nice.
It's not like I am Ryan Clifford 42. Like
he's the original. The original Ryan Clifford right here.
Damn right. I'm waiting for a celebrity to, get famous with my name so they can, email me and give me some money for that.
Oh man. And Joseph Horkoff saying, "Hey Ryan, how should I tease tomorrow's Korean baseball games?"
I have no idea. I'm not a Major League Baseball guy, let alone Korean baseball, so I can't help you there.
I love it. You never know what people are going to say. You really never know what the fan's going to bring out to anybody.
It's a big thing. That Korean baseball is a big thing right now. We've got, actually, on the website that I write for, we've got elitefantasy.com. We've got a lot of guys writing about the Korean baseball, daily fantasy sports, and sports betting for Korean baseball. I don't know. I don't stay far away from baseball.
It's only live sports we got right now, so
yeah,
it is what it is, I guess.
Remember, I grew up in Buffalo, so I never had a baseball team growing up, so it just never was something I got into.
Yeah, that must be interesting though, having only two of the four major sports. Is it like, guys? Obviously, it's the Bills and then it's the Sabres. Did you ever flirt with the idea of having a baseball team or a basketball team at all?
No, never. I followed them when I was young, but I never really got to the point where I rooted for a team or anything like that. And
gotcha.
It's just has followed me all my life. I live in Atlanta now, and I mean, I still could care less about Braves or Hawks. Those just aren't my sports. Yeah.
To be fair, I don't think the Hawks or the Braves fans care about that either. So,
right on.
All right, let's see here. What do we have now? Ah, yes, my next matchup. Speaking of the Sabres,
Which round are we on? We're on round 7, right?
Yeah, the 7th matchup. Cool. So I've got the Las Vegas Golden Knights and against the Buffalo Sabres. Ryan, help me here. Is there any way that the Sabres could pull this out?
No, that's a tough matchup. No, I don't think our goaltending can stand up to Max Pacioretty's 10 shots on goal every game and everybody else that they've got on that team.
I got
I
you.
always forget Pacioretty's there now. He's been so quiet since he went over there.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's good again now, but yeah, last year was weird.
Yeah. I've got the Flyers and the Sabres, and I think it's pretty. Flyers pretty much have that one. I think Sabres will take a game or two, but
You did that on purpose. You knew that Ryan was going to be here, so you did that on purpose.
actually it worked out to my benefit.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see about that. Anyway, so yeah, on to that one. Ryan, do you have any objections to the Flyers versus Sabres?
No, I think it's clear the Flyers would take the series. I agree with Brian that I think the Sabres could win a couple games in Buffalo. Personally, I in Philadelphia, I don't know that there's a team in the league right now that can match up with the Flyers. But
Yeah,
I think that the Flyers they're a vastly different team on the road that they are at home, in my opinion.
No, absolutely. We've seen it all season long. Pretty much a tale of two teams. A team that can just flat out dominate you at home and go out on the road. And, it's a team that kind of looks silly from time to time. That
Couturier line is so good defensively. And when they have that option on home ice of putting him out there against whoever they want, they can essentially just shut down all of the top players from the other teams. So on home ice, they're tough to match up with because they've got a lot of depth too. A lot of good defensemen.
Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think Buffalo would have a shot in the series.
Gotcha.
So I went to the final home game of the season with Chrome, and I was Flyers Boston. Even though the Flyers got shut out 2-0, it was still a game that was pretty much dominated by the Flyers. Just couldn't figure out a way to beat Tuukka. So, if it was a team on the road, they probably would have just gotten flat out smoked. But, Tuukka was just a better goalie. Just goes to show you, even though the Flyers dominated, still wound up losing.
Yeah, and to Ryan's earlier point, too, about defensive-minded centers, we added two of those at the trade deadline that weren't splashy moves, but good, solid for a deep playoff run, and Derek Grant and Nate Thompson. So, definitely a trend in Philadelphia, those two-way forwards, you know what I mean? The defensive-minded forwards there that make it tough to beat in a series.
Yeah.
Awesome. Derek Grant has also was having a pretty good offensive season up to that point. I believe he hit his career high in goals with 15. I believe he had at the end of the year. So he was a great move. I hated to see him leave Anaheim, but to see him succeed and play well in Philadelphia, I still get to see him every night. So I'm happy with it.
He technically didn't leave. He just went to another orange and black team.
Oh, he definitely left, but I still get to watch him every night to my benefit.
And Wayne Blackniak saying, I think when Boston came to Philly, they looked like they were try stuff out. Oh, okay. It looks like they were trying stuff out. Okay, then. Well, maybe. I mean, with Boston, it's a weird situation because it's a dominant team and a team that has a solid offensive attack and has a pretty solid defense on the back of it. But Tuukka, he could take a team and no matter how good you are, how great you are, if Tuukka wants to have a night, you're fucked. It's just as simple as that. Like, I'm sorry, you're not succeeding, whether you try or you don't. So, on to Rob. What do you have for your match?
Well, real quick on his comment there, I don't know how Boston was trying things when they had Tampa Bay on nipping at their toes, in terms of best record in the East and overall in the NHL. So, maybe not. For my next matchup, I have Schittsburg and let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is where it's Pittsburgh Buffalo. This is where the Sabres show up in my bracket. And not just because Ryan's on the show right now. is this going to be my upset? I don't think I can. I mean, the Penguins are going to be so much healthier than when we last saw them. Going to be able to roll, 4 solid lines again. I do think Buffalo could make things interesting and, make a little sweat there for the Penguins fans. But in the end, I think this isn't going to be my upset yet. I got to go Pittsburgh here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a healthy Penguins team is, again, right up there at the top of the league. They dealt with an astronomical number of injuries this season to their top guys. So if we're talking about a healthy Penguins team, yeah, I don't see the Sabres stacking up there.
Could there be a bit of a goaltender quandary, because they do have 2 excellent goaltenders that were battling for playing time? Do you think that could confound things when it comes to the playoffs for the Pittsburgh Penguins?
We'd have to see. I don't know. I mean, I think at this point, I think it was looking like it was Tristan Jarry took over the first half of the season, and right a couple of weeks leading up to when we took a break or the season ended or whatever, it looked like Matt Murray was kind of reclaiming his spot. But it'd be interesting to see where they would go there. Yeah. I think either one of them would have a short leash.
Right.
All right then. Okay, so with that, we move on to our next contest. And the next contest for me was Edmonton and Montreal. So now Montreal had a bit of an odd year. They were kind of there, and then they weren't there, and then they went back, and then now they're shit again. It was a weird year for them, to say the least. As for Edmonton, it's the Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl show. And every week it's just, okay, hey, here's some more highlights for you guys for TSN, the only sports center that actually shows hockey. And, it's just, I mean, Montreal, depending upon how Carey Price plays, Montreal may frustrate him a little bit, but I don't really see that happening. I see Edmonton pretty much taking care of it with the offense that they have. The defense, though, little suspect for the Edmonton Oilers. But if Mike Smith's playing well, it's very, very hard to see Edmonton getting beat in this series. I would say Edmonton wins this.
The thing I like about the Edmonton Oilers is not just their offense, is that their defense actually has been playing a lot better than I expected them to this year, which is part of the reason why Mike Smith has seen some success again as a goaltender since leaving Arizona. Did have a rough year with Calgary last year, but like I said, they're playing well defensively with Darnell Nurse pretty much leading the charge over there, turning into a fantastic player. Made a couple decent moves at the deadline. So, yeah, I could see Edmonton definitely pretty much owning Montreal, even though Montreal does have some nice offensive pieces. Could make some noise in that series. Carey Price is still Carey Price. When he's on, he's on. But for my next series, I have Chicago and Dallas. And I do have Chicago upsetting Dallas. And the reason for that is the experience that the team brings. I know they got some younger guys, some really good players, just breaking into the NHL, guys like Kirby Dach. But you still got Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, Brent Seabrook still playing, Duncan Keith. Guys that have been there before that can keep the team some kind of level-headedness. And Dallas is still Dallas. They'll find some way to screw it up. I still don't like the team as defensively. I do like Ben Bishop, and I do like their offense, but I think their defense is going to be the reason why they lose. Unable to contain Kane and Taves and that power play.
All right, then. Rob, who did you have?
Well, Brian almost stole my thunder, but that's actually going to be for another round, or another matchup, I should say. For my next matchup, I got the Vegas Golden Knights and the Montreal Canadiens. Now, it's going to be interesting, too. I mean, Montreal, a very workman-like team, and they can outwork you. And they battled hard for that 500 record. in the end, I mean, despite the head coaching change out there in Vegas, we really saw that team really turn it around from what was a brief swoon to, command such a coaching dismissal, which I'm still scratching my head about to this day. But it did work. They were 8-2 in their last 10 heading into the break. Now, of course, that really doesn't matter too much with such time off. Montreal can make it interesting and certainly match the energy level of Vegas, but this is not quite going to be my upset yet. My upset was foreshadowed by Brian in the next matchup.
Joseph, to your comment, brother, I did pick Dallas like 2 weeks ago in the bracket that we did. Different matchups, different situation. I like Chicago over Dallas. I just like the experience that Chicago has versus the experience that Dallas has.
Well, now we have to go to our esteemed judge.
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember the first matchup was Edmonton
in Montreal.
Remind me, in Montreal. See, I like Edmonton from Montreal side. I think that they can keep it closer with Edmonton. Maybe win a series against an Edmonton team. I like that series better than Vegas for them. I think Vegas would match up well with them offensively. And then trying to remember.
Brian, what was yours?
Dallas, Chicago.
Dallas,
Chicago, yeah. I think it would be a tough series. I think that would be a 6-7 game series. Dallas does a pretty good job defensively. I think they've probably got one of the low. They probably allow one of the lowest goals per game amounts in the league. I don't know. I don't know where to go. I would think that Chicago, like you said, Chicago's experience probably pulls them through on that one.
Okay, then.
Yeah, that's right, man. I didn't even realize that Dallas goals against 177 is only bested by Boston's 174.
I didn't know that either. That kind of might change my decision here.
No, I like where your head's at.
It's so quiet.
Yeah, no.
It's a quiet 177. You know what I mean? Like
quiet.
Yeah.
It's the first time that could be quiet, but
Yeah. This is true, though. This is true, but I mean, maybe the DFS world you pay attention to a little more of those things. But for this matchup, though, I like where your head's at because I think if Chicago were to be allowed into the tournament, in the various ways that we've discussed that it could go down, they're a dangerous matchup because Kane and Tays. Certainly the experience is in their corner. And in my scenario, I'll just dive right into it. I have Chicago going against Edmonton, and I think Chicago takes that series. I think Edmonton has had a great first line scoring, but the scoring starts to get sparse as you move down, the lines on that roster. So I think that they could take advantage of a team that's is pretty good, but not quite there yet.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And as far as it being quiet, you never hear much about Dallas's defense. I don't even know who's on their defense anymore.
Well, it's also in Dallas, and they don't have fans. So,
Just dig it in, baby.
Still doesn't change in Chicago. Let's go.
All right, so my next matchup, I had Dallas and Chicago. I actually had Dallas winning, only because I think Corey Crawford would wind up becoming their Achilles heel. I mean, yeah, he has turned it on, but I don't know if this break is going to help him. I think it actually hinders him. I think he has a tough time getting going, and I think that ultimately costs him because it'll come down to goaltending, and I think Bishop will beat him in the duel. Well, so I think it would be a tough fight, but I think Dallas does come out on top of it.
I think the one thing you also got to keep in mind, Maddie, with Corey Crawford is he tends to show up in the playoffs. He is definitely a better playoff goaltender than he is regular season goaltender. So
it is,
keep that in mind as well.
But it's not a typical season. I think that would play into his, I don't think he'd be 100% ready for it. If we're coming out of a break and, he's not 100% ready to go, I can see it happening, honestly, because we've been seeing Crawford slowly slip And yeah, he's more of a playoff goalie than he is a regular season goalie, but how long is that going to hold up? You never really know. Hell, Matt Murray was starting to really fade there this year, and he always showed up in the playoffs. So it's one of those things. You just don't know what's going to happen with those kind of goalies.
Also, keep in mind, Matt Murray's only like 23 years old, too, so he's still got plenty of room to grow.
He's a lot younger, so yeah, he has a chance to rebound from that. But still, it can happen to any goalie. You have that bad break, you can't come out of it, and you're struggling. So I could see Dallas taking advantage of that and moving on.
We'll see. We'll agree to disagree on that one.
That's fine. We usually disagree on a lot of things, so let's just throw this one out to the pile as well. Anyway, moving on.
Name of the station, baby.
It is.
Shameless plug.
Bri, who do you have?
In my next round, I have, where am I? The Penguins and Canadians. I got Pittsburgh winning this one. I think you see Crosby of old kind of pop out of nowhere and do what he does, and Matt Murray is slowly getting back to where he was when he won his 2 cups. For Pittsburgh, Montreal isn't too much of a rebuild mode. They do have a lot of good talent on the offensive side. Shea Weber is going to be a key piece that would need to stay healthy should there be any competition as far as this series goes, and see which Carey Price you get. Like I said, when he's on, he's on. When he's off, he's pretty bad.
Rob, what do you have?
For my next matchup here, well, I actually said it was Edmonton, Chicago, and Chicago
okay.
winner. Yep.
Gotcha.
I snuck it in. Like when you're with your chick at the movie theater. You know what I mean?
Oh dear God!
So it's a different kind of movie theater. It's not your regular type of movie theater, the one that you see in the really bad section of the city that you're not supposed to be at. But anyway,
I haven't done it.
Oh man, when you stick to the
I
floor,
haven't tried anyway.
You realize that your shoes are sticking to the floor, and it may not be soda. But anyway,
Jesus Christ!
I started it. I don't even know why I'm complaining.
That's your fault. Yeah, that is all on you. Anyway,
Brian, I apologize for those two.
Yeah. Apology accepted.
You should have been on last show when I called the LA Lakers organization a bunch of cocksuckers.
But
the whole PPP thing, you know what I mean? But anyway.
Yeah.
True.
So with that being said, Ryan, I think it was it Brian series that I don't think we've heard your opinion on? I know you talked about Dallas and Chicago.
Yeah. So we have Montreal, Edmonton.
Montreal, Pittsburgh.
Montreal,
Pittsburgh. Okay. Yeah, again, I think a healthy Pittsburgh team would take that. I think Montreal matches up better with kind of like a top-loaded team, someone with not a lot of depth. And I think Pittsburgh, when they're healthy, they've got 3 or 4 really good lines. And then, Rob, what was yours? I thought it was Montreal, Edmonton. Is that?
Yeah, it was Edmonton, Chicago.
Edmonton, Chicago. Yeah. That's a tough one. I think Edmonton there. I would pick Edmonton there.
All right.
Edmonton anymore is just pure speed.
Edmonton's just not good defensively. They let in a lot of goals, and I mean that's right up Edmonton's alley. That's right in their wheelhouse. A team that's going to allow a lot of goals.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you think about Edmonton's history, it's all offense, and more offense. Yeah. The only time they ever tried to be defensive was in the early 2000s. They got to the Stanley Cup final, but they lost.
Yeah.
So,
they had Chris Pronger that year. It was the only year that Chris Pronger was in Edmonton.
That's true. That is very, very true. And it's the only time the Hurricanes actually won. And that transitions nicely into my next matchup. So with that, we go to the Carolina Hurricanes and the Arizona Coyotes. This one's a tough matchup, only because Carolina was playing weird there towards the end. Arizona had a disappointing season. Let's see. Hold on a sec. Joseph saying, question to take a pause from this segment. Do you think the Flyers should leave Giroux, Voracek exposed in expansion? I do. I think the Flyers should protect Hart, Myers, Provorov, Coots, Hayes, and Konechny, and I don't know who the other one defenseman and 4 forwards are we should protect. Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. You don't want to get rid of Giroux, and I say that because he's the captain of the team, and I'm going to say this right now. We don't have anybody who can take the C. Like, not right now. And I know a lot of people are big on Hayes, and I know a lot of people might bring his name up, but I would say, yeah, Hayes is great in the locker room, but I will say this, man, Giroux on that top line is dangerous, and you don't want to lose that, and Voracek I can actually – if we had to choose one of them, I would leave Voracek unprotected. Again, no offense to Jake, though, because Jake has actually played much better than, he's made some bad passes, but he always does. For the most part, though, he's been playing very, very well this year. So, I mean, I don't know. Leaving either one of them unprotected to me, I don't know about that one. Yeah, I get the contract length. So I can understand if you're coming from that side of things, because those are some rough contracts.
Yeah, Voracek, I think a lot of it. Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, I was going to say Jake just get pass happy sometimes, and it results in some retarded passes for sure. But with Giroux, I do see another captain on this team that could take over for him. I'm not saying to get rid of or expose him, because we would certainly miss his his goal scoring prowess. There we
There
go.
it is.
I can talk. Sean Couturier is a future captain. You know what I mean? No two ways about it. So if Giroux were to get sniped in that scenario, which I don't think would happen, I don't think it would be the smart move. He would definitely be a forward I would protect. But that's who a guy who could take over as captain. I'm going to stop talking now.
Okay. Plus, also, I think we can't even leave Voracek and Giroux unprotected because they both have no movement clauses. So they are automatically protected under their contracts. So
I don't think Voracek has one. I know Giroux does.
Giroux does. Yes, you're right. But if that's the case, though, so Giroux ain't moving. They're not going to have him waive it. I don't know about that. And just saying, leave the 30-plus-year-olds with big contracts unprotected. Here's the thing, though. You don't – and I'm going to say this now. I love having young guys on this team, but you also need veteran leadership. You can't just have a bunch of young guys. And I'll say that because, yeah, young teams are exciting teams, but they also need guidance. And a coach can only do so much. A coach ain't out there every shift. You need to have somebody like a Voracek who can show them, okay, I'm going to catch you here, wait for the pass, and then show them this is why I did that. Hayes is a perfect example of why you need veteran leadership. A guy who steps up and helps guys. You need veteran leadership. You can't just have all young guys because that's a team that can get rattled easy. And again, a coach can only do so much. He's not out there with them on the ice.
I think if you don't protect Drew, and I've said this before, I think you take 2 steps back in whatever it is that you're trying to do. He's a strong leader on and off the ice. He's another guy who is a presence on the ice. You know when he's there. He's durable. He's rarely ever hurt. And to me, that's a rare find, that you find a guy who just doesn't miss time. Voracek, I might be one of the few guys who thinks Voracek should be protected. He's a great passer. He's a great playmaker. I could see the reason for getting rid of Voracek being his contract. Yeah, he got paid after his 85-point season. And that could be his production just wasn't the same. He can be a little pass happy, but he's a good playmaker. He's got good vision on the ice. He does a real good job setting guys up in certain situations. Does he turn the puck over a little too much? Yeah. But he's been a solid player for the Flyers. He's another guy who doesn't really miss any time as well. So I think JVR is a guy you should consider leaving unprotected. See if somebody could take his contract. Who else? Couturier you protect. Konechny you protect. Maybe you let Scott Lawton. Maybe see him go. I know we just talked about him with John Riley a couple weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, Drew and Voracek, I think you take steps back if you let them go.
All right, then. So since we are on that, pause there. Ryan, with your team, Buffalo, who would you want to see them leave unprotected?
I'm not exactly sure how all the rules work with how many you've got to leave unprotected, what the deal with the no trade clauses and stuff like that is. I mean, they would obviously have to leave like Kyle Oposo unprotected, who's got like a $7 million contract, and he's just a shell of his former self. And I'm not sure. I think the Sabres are still overhauling their roster so much that by the time next summer comes, it's gonna be in a completely different place. I think if it were this year, the answer is a lot of these defensemen that they've got, Colin Miller, maybe Jake McCabe. But I think you're going to see like Rasmus Ristolainen moved out. You might see someone like Sam Reinhart moved. But I mean, you protect Eichel, obviously. You protect probably Jeff Skinner, Marcus Johansson, Brandon Montour, Dahlin. I don't know what the age limit is, but it's tough to play this game of like who should you protect because rosters are going to look so much different by next summer, you know?
Yeah, Oposo was definitely the first guy who jumped into mind for me. Like you were saying, shell of his former self, hasn't really lived up to that contract. Another guy I would like to see the Sabres protect is and I'm not sure because he's been up and down a little bit this year, is Casey Middlestead. I think he's going to be a good center one day for the Sabres. I kind of like the player that he's turning into.
You can take him.
I'm not a fan.
You can have him.
I just might take you up on that.
Yeah, I think he's still in the age range that they wouldn't need to protect him. I think I'm not sure how that works, but yeah, I mean, you definitely would protect a top 10 pick if he needed to be. I'm not sold on the fact that he's going to become anything decent, but you never know with these guys.
Yeah, it's the truth. They'll just show up to Camp One-Year and set the world on fire. It's just how they develop in juniors or the AHL or wherever they wind up going.
Yeah.
All right, then. So,
one name I wanted to rehash from what Ryan said was Jeff Skinner. Big Jeff Skinner fan. Certainly got to protect him. I think he's a guy that could, he could reach the 30 goal plateau. I was a fan of him in Carolina, and I was excited for the Sabres when they got a kid that wasn't always put in the best situations for the Hurricanes.
Yeah. Well, he does that to himself a lot too because his defensive play is non-existent. So he's not going to be on the ice very often in key situations. He's not going to be on the ice in special teams. He's not going to be on the ice in overtime. He's fallen off a lot this year. He played with Jack Eichel last year, scored 40 goals. This year, for whatever reason, the new coach just has refused to play him with Eichel, and he's not going to get anywhere near probably 40, not going to get near 30 goals. And he's got a big contract, a long contract. So I'm hoping that it's just been a down year and they find somebody that can get him the puck next year.
Right.
All right, then. So, moving forward, back to my matchup, Carolina and Arizona. Tough contest between these two. I do see, this was a tough one. I was flirting with either giving it to Arizona or giving it to Carolina. I finally settled on Carolina at the end of the day. I think they do gut it out. I think it's a very hard-fought series, though. And the only reason I say that is because both teams, I think, they have their ups and they have their downs, but I think Carolina, they've been able to weather storms a little bit better than Arizona has. Once Arizona had a rough go of it this year, they kind of fell right apart. And it's like, ooh. It was a disappointing year for them. Shouldn't be a reflection of the team, but unfortunately, it's been a disappointing year for like the last 6 years. And for Carolina, are they playing the same way they played last year? No, but they were staying in the hunt, whereas Arizona was falling right off the face of the earth. So I give it to Carolina. It's a very close series, but Carolina takes the day.
I got Winnipeg and Arizona. I got the Jets winning this series. Arizona started off really, really well this year, bringing in Phil Kessel to start the year. Got Clayton Keller under contract, who's going to be a big piece of that organization moving forward. But I think Darcy Kemper was a part of the reason why they started to fall apart a little bit.
Yeah.
He's another goaltender who started off really hot and looking like he was going to have an all-star season. Kind of fell off. The Jets are kind of in a weird place right now. They're not setting the world on fire like they were a couple years ago. And I think defensively that's probably where I feel like their weak point is. You're not really getting that production from Patrick Laine that you got a couple years ago. This was a tough one for me, but since the Taylor Hall trade, Coyotes have been, heading downhill fast. So I got the Jets winning that series.
All right then, Rob, what do you have?
My next match, it's actually the same matchup as you, Maddie. I got Carolina and Arizona, but this is going to be another upset for me. I think the boys out in the desert are going to take this one. Carolina was scuffling. They were majorly hurt by their goaltending situation where they had both starter and backup on the shelf. Now, of course, they'll be healthier there, but I still wasn't a big firm believer in the men between the pipes there in Carolina. And Arizona, we're one of the top teams in the Western Conference in this first, not quite third of the season, but almost virtually that amount of time. And I think with the time off, they can put it together and Ricky Taka get them pulling up the upset here. I'll go Arizona.
All right then, Ryan, what do you think of these two matchups here?
I think Winnipeg would take out Arizona. I think I'm not sure that one would be particularly close if we're talking about both teams healthy. Carolina and Arizona seems like a lot of fun. It seems like something I'd want to watch. They're very, very similar teams. For me, I think Carolina kind of everything that Arizona has, I think Carolina has, but just a little bit better. Arizona's got Taylor Hall, like a ridiculous goal scoring forward. I think Andrei Svechnikov is just a little bit better. They've got a good defensive centerman and Derek Stepan. I think that Carolina's got Jordan Stahl, who's just a little bit better. Oliver Ekman-Larsson compared to Dougie Hamilton. I think they both have kind of questionable goaltending, but I think, again, I would give the edge to Carolina just by a slight margin. So I think I would go with the Hurricanes.
All right, then.
We can't forget that Carolina has Vincent Trocheck as well now, too. So
yeah, that's true.
That little deal from Florida. All right, then. Moving on. Next matchup for me, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Minnesota Wild. For me, I had the Maple Leafs winning this one. Minnesota, they're kind of stuck right now where they're at, and, they have really bad contracts that they're currently paying, and also they did fire Bruce Boudreau, which was kind of overdue. It was coming. We all saw it coming. But, I know Minnesota was trying there towards the end. They were, but I just don't see them getting through Toronto. I think the Maple Leafs wind up winning this series.
I got Toronto and Florida, and I got the upset going to Florida here. Toronto's been a very inconsistent team all season long. We saw it early on with Mike Babcock, him getting relieved of his duties as head coach. The new head coach that came in, he's done a little bit better. The team's getting healthier. I think losing Jake Gardiner was a big blow to that defense, and I think they didn't really recover it right away. Morgan Riley being hurt, who's the new defensive captain out there, I think his injury hurt a lot too. Not a ton of goal scoring coming from some of the bigger guns in Toronto. I mean, you expect more out of Tavares and Matthews, and Mitch Marner's kind of been Mitch Marner. I think it's a deep series, but I think Florida finds some kind of way to stick in it and upsetting the Maple Leafs. I don't know. I could see the fight coming out of Florida.
All right, then. Rob, what do you have?
I had your same matchup, Maddie.
All right, then. So with that being said, Ryan, what do you think?
Okay, Minnesota, I don't think would stand a chance in that series. I don't see it. Toronto, I like Toronto, I think, in Brian's series, especially with the Panthers getting rid of Trocheck. Toronto kind of hit a wall there in the middle of the season, and they don't seem like they've really climbed over that yet. But I think all the pieces would kind of come together if you're talking about a 7-game series. And I think the Leafs have, a pretty complete team.
I think we all could agree that they definitely hit that wall, and it was pretty clear at that point. Because, like I said, the team kind of completely shut down. You weren't getting much production from any of the big guys that you needed the production from.
And what was it? Not Austin Matthews. What's his name? Took forever to sign him in the offseason.
Tavares?
No, not Tavares.
Nylander.
Nylander?
No.
Marner.
Oh, Marner.
Marner. Thank you. Mitch
yeah.
Marner. Jesus, I don't know how I forgot that. But anyway, Mitch Marner, he called out the team, says that everybody needs to step up. So, I mean, when he's saying that, it's just like, damn. This is a team that sports a really strong offense, and they're not producing. It's like, ooh.
And a young player at that to speak up. See, that's like, to Ryan's point, Toronto does have it all, right? But lack of leadership on that team, and it resulted in Babcock's job. And it takes a youth guy to step up. Like, where's Austin Matthews stepping up and being a leader in that locker room? I've done a bunch of Maple Leaf bashing on the show all year, and I really thought that Florida, even though they traded away Trocheck, sort of did a little addition by subtraction. I still believe that they could have caught them for that third spot. But in a matchup against Minnesota, I think, there's still enough talent on those forward lines for Maple Leafs to come out of there.
Gotcha. All right, then. Now we move forward. My next matchup, we got the Columbus Blue Jackets against the Vancouver Canucks, the cockroach of the East. No matter how many times you step on them, those fucking Blue Jackets find a way to still be competitive. And this, however, though, is where I see an upset happening. I see Vancouver beating Columbus, and Vancouver would ironically be the actual bottom-seeded team, shockingly enough. No offense to anybody who may be a Columbus fan out there. If you are, then hello to all two of you. But for Vancouver, at the end of the day, I have more faith in that team, at least with the young talent that they have. And yes, Columbus does have talent. I'm not saying they don't. And they have a lot of fight to that team and a lot of grit to that team. But I still think Vancouver comes out on top, and I think they win it in 7. It's a tough fight. Don't get me wrong. Columbus will battle them because that's the team that they are. Right. But I think Vancouver comes out on top at the end of the day.
And I mean, Columbus, much like Pittsburgh, had half their lineup on the healthy scratch list, or not healthy scratch, the unhealthy scratch list. And the job that Torts did out there in Columbus was remarkable to have them playoff relevant. It's still a tough matchup for them, even though Vancouver is the lower seed, and being healthy would be a feather in their cap. But I'm with you, Matty. I'll go Vancouver there.
Okay, then. Bri, what do you have?
I can't wait to bring up my points about the Blue Jackets. I'm still a couple picks away from them.
Okay.
I got the Flames and the Wild.
Okay.
I actually have the Wild upsetting the Flames. For the Flames roster, they're completely underachieving, and they are a much better team than they've been showing this year. The Wild's a mess. That team is just not much really good things you can say about where they've been, but just with the way the Flames have been playing all year, the underachieving, they have a very good roster. I can't see the Wild beating them, or I can't see the Flames winning with the way they've been all season long. They're too good to be playing the way they are, and we see it continue.
All right, then. So with that, and Rob, you had the same matchup as me again?
Mhm.
All right, then. Mr. Clifford, your thoughts?
I will go against the grain with you guys. I think that Vancouver, I don't know that they'd be able to beat Columbus in 7 games.
Okay.
I agree that it would be a long series, 6 or 7. But I'm not sure with Columbus's defensive play that Vancouver, they've got some nice pieces, but they're not an overly offensive juggernaut or anything. I don't know that they would match up well there. Minnesota and Calgary, it's one of those series I would have no interest in watching. Yeah, that would be some boring hockey.
Absolutely.
I don't know where to go there. I would probably just go Calgary because they've got some better offensive pieces, but I don't know. I don't really care about that series.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I wanted to pick Calgary, but like I said, they've been underachieving all year. It all started in the beginning of the year with Bill Peters and him getting fired, and I thought, all right, well, there goes your problem. And they never really rebounded.
Yeah, I don't know what their deal is.
They're too good. Sean Monahan is a great player. Johnny Gaudreau. Who else do they got?
Lindholm, Kachuk.
Yeah.
They're stacked offensively, but
you got
for whatever reason,
Giordano.
they can't score.
Yeah, but Giordano has been one of the few highlights of that team all season long, and it's just a shame to see where they are.
There'd be one fan in the country that would watch a Flames Minnesota Wild series, and that's probably Scott Christensen. We work with from Minnesota. He's a Minnesota fan, so that wouldn't be a must see TV there. But
No.
a lot of present and future stars with the Flames. Just a prelude to where they fall for me. I have them Flames seeing the Rangers, and I was sort of in between on that. But the points you made, Brian, kind of made me lean the Rangers because they were certainly a hot streaking team the last we saw of them. So
yeah, I'll touch on the Rangers. They're in my next matchup.
All right, then. So on to mine. Winnipeg versus Florida for me. Florida is a team that, they can surprise you, and then they're a team that can disappoint you. And for whatever reason, Florida has been determined to disappoint. It's amazing. They have great talent on that team. And goaltending has been, Luongo was doing well there, and then eventually it all fell apart. And then Bobrovsky comes in, and Bobrovsky has been MIA for the most part. He's had his moments there, but it's just like, it's not the same Bobrovsky we saw in Columbus. Not even the same Bobrovsky you saw in Philly. It was just like, damn, this is a Bobrovsky that is just awful. Wow. Florida's weird. They're an enigma. They're a team that has talent, but for whatever reason, it's not transitioning into the play that they are having, or consistency, which has been their biggest issue. Winnipeg, on the other hand, they're a team that did lose talent. However, though, Winnipeg has been trying to stay competitive, and they've been doing that pretty solidly. I would say Winnipeg wins this series. It's a little closer than I think some people would say, but I would say Winnipeg does come out on top. But again, it will come down to goaltending. Will Bobrovsky be able to hold up in a playoff matchup? He can, but if we get the Bobrovsky that's been all season, it's going to be real rough. If Hellebuck comes out and he plays very well, then it's like, ooh, not a good situation for Florida. But again, if that situation plays out. But I see Winnipeg walking away with a win here if they meet up in a playoff matchup.
The one thing that I think has really hurt Winnipeg this year, in my opinion, is the loss of Dustin Byfuglien.
Yeah.
Not playing all season long, having a gripe with the organization itself, eventually getting to the point where They've both agreed to terminate the contract, making Dustin Byfuglien a free agent if he signs anywhere else. If he retires, is yet to be seen. But I think that not having his leadership in that locker room, it's a killer. I think it's really hurt that team this year. But I do have the Rangers and the Hurricanes in my next matchup, and I have the Rangers winning this matchup. Not very easily, mind you. Two very good teams. The Rangers, one of the hottest teams in the league at play stoppage, starting to really come together as a whole, playing very, very good hockey. Henrik not playing his best, but getting good support from Prince Igor and Georgiev as well. Mika Zibanejad really taking the bull by the horns and, being the leader of that team, finding some way to produce and get on the scorecard every night. The Hurricanes, I have no faith in Peter Mrazek as a starting goaltender and James Reimer. I just don't see it. I think they were better off keeping Cam Ward. Good up front, very good offense, and they're a strong defense. And they added at the deadline getting Brady Shea and Sammy Vatanen in separate deals, obviously coming from two separate teams, the Rangers and the Devils, respectively. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I got the Rangers in this one.
All right, then. Rob, same matchup as me?
No, different. I
Okay.
think I did step away because I've drunk so much water during the show, staying hydrated, which is good, which is very good, very healthy. But who did you have, Maddie?
Winnipeg and Florida.
No, in this scenario, I had Islanders Nashville.
Okay.
Which would be a really interesting. This would be a series that I would want to tune into. And just to make my point quickly, I think I'm going to pick Nashville in an upset because the Islanders concern me defensively, and a Trotz-led team should not concern you defensively. They were a mess. I mean, maybe do they get things figured out during this break and things can change? But we can't predict that. But going based on what I know, I think Nashville, despite the turmoil they had during this season, would be triumphant there if they can get enough goal scoring.
All right, then. All right, so, Ryan, what do you think of these matchups?
Okay, you guys might have to remind me of
no problem.
First one or two. These are getting to the point where they're getting significantly harder to pick. The teams are getting closer. Carolina, the Rangers is the first one that I remember. That's tough. The Rangers have been looking really good the last few weeks before the stoppage. I think that I like the Rangers as an upset in that one. And then the other two series, remind me.
Mine was
Islanders.
Nashville and the Islanders.
Nashville Islanders. God, another tough one to call. Be a really defensive series, I think. I'm not sure you'd see a lot of goal scoring in these games. Nashville's got a lot of playoff experience. I think that I would go there too. And then Matt, what was yours?
Mine was Winnipeg and Florida.
Yeah, I think I got to go Winnipeg there. Florida's, just atrocious goaltending. Winnipeg's a team that's going to be shooting the puck a whole lot. Florida's a team that gives up a ton of shots. I don't like that matchup at all for Florida.
Joe agrees with you. He said Bobrovsky's doing his best Brizgalov impression this year.
All right, then.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
On to my next matchup. This is where I had New York and Nashville. I did have Nashville walking away with the win here only because the Isles have been slipping and they haven't been looking all that good rolling into the playoffs. They've been trying to get it back, but something is wrong over there. I don't know what it is, but the magic is not there. That was there last year. That is for sure. All right, then. Brian, what did you have?
This is where I have Nashville and Vancouver.
Okay.
I think I see a little bit more of a defensive series here. I do have Vancouver upsetting Nashville. I just think that has to do with the fact that I personally think Vancouver is a fairly quick team. I think this little play stoppage here definitely benefits them. Getting a little bit healthy, getting Brock Besser back, and obviously we know Quinn Hughes is having a hell of a season with the Vancouver Canucks. Story of goaltending in this series, I feel like with Jacob Markstrom versus Pekka Rinne. I like the experience that Rinne brings. I think we see a ton of shots from Vancouver. So I see Rinne definitely being tested a lot. And I think because of that and a little bit of the speed that Vancouver has over Nashville, I can see Vancouver definitely upsetting Nashville in this series.
All right then.
Yeah, you make some good points there, Brian. I mean, one thing I didn't speak of with Vancouver before was that they're, like an SNL, like cast. They're not quite ready for TV. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They were when they overachieved earlier in the season. I'm like, this is too soon for them. And then there was the fall off. So, to your point there, yeah, it's not quite the time for the Canucks, but man, it's going to look beautiful there in Vancouver.
It is. I think they need another year. I thought they were going to do bigger things this year. I think I had them finishing in a division spot earlier in the season. But I like the pieces there with Brock Besser and Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. They got a nice little group of guys to build around. I think they're doing a good job with the balance of veteran leadership as well as young studs.
Yes,
All right.
sir. Yes,
So,
sir.
And with that, Rob, what was your match?
This is where I had Winnipeg in Florida. And I actually have another matchup too. I might have missed one when I was stepping away, giving myself cancer. So I had Winnipeg, Florida, and I had Rangers, Calgary, and I definitely go Winnipeg by leaps and bounds. And the toughest matchup of this whole scenario of 31 teams was this Rangers Flames series because, yeah, there's so much promise there. Not to beat a dead horse, we talked about Calgary and Brian's scenario. I'm going to have to go with the Blue Shirts, but by a nose just because I think they play a little better defensively. Not much better, but a little better than Calgary.
Yeah, in my matchup, I had the Rangers and the Flames, and I did the same thing. The Rangers move on in their matchup. Bri, what was your final matchup?
My final matchup is Blue Jackets and Islanders.
Okay.
And I have the Blue Jackets beating the Islanders. Islanders are a good team. But the reason why I picked Columbus is they've lost 3 huge names in the offseason. Matt Duchene, Artemi Panarin, and Sergei Bobrovsky. And this team has not missed a step, losing 3 big names like that. They have 2 goalies step in Corpusalo and Elvis. I'm not even going to attempt his last name. They've done a very good job as a tandem to replace Sergei Bobrovsky, and the offense is still clicking without Duchene and Panarin. Obviously, we know Columbus is more of a defensive team with Torts behind the bench, and even despite the injuries, they're still playing well. So, I think Columbus, could potentially be a deep threat as far as at least our brackets go.
All right then. So with that being said, Ryan, do you have anything you wanted to add on to the matchup of the Rangers and Flames or the Blue Jackets and the what was the team again? Blue Jackets and
Islanders.
Yeah, Rangers Flames would be fun to watch. I think there'd be a lot of goal scoring there. Again, I think that Calgary's got a little bit more pop. It would all depend. If we see the Flames team that we saw before the stoppage and we see the Rangers team we saw before the stoppage, I think the Rangers take it. But I think Calgary got the kind of guys that come together for a 7-game series. Columbus and the Islanders, I think I agree. I like Columbus in that one. I think they match up well with teams that don't score a whole lot, and Islanders haven't really done that this year. And then the other one was Vancouver, Nashville, and I agree with Brian. I think Vancouver could take that one too.
All right, then. So, since we're running up against it, I'm going to streamline the next rounds for myself, and then I will turn to Ryan and see if he disagrees with who I have going all the way and winning the cup. So, for my second round, I got Boston and Vancouver. I have Boston winning that series. St. Louis and the Rangers. St. Louis takes that one. The Avalanche versus the Jets. The Avs win that bad boy. Tampa Bay versus the Islanders. Oh, no, not the Islanders. My bad. I meant Nashville. And I have Tampa taking that one. Washington up against Minnesota. Washington wins that. Philly versus Carolina. The Flyers barely managed to beat them. Not really. They do beat them, but they beat them in 6. It's a little close. Pittsburgh up against Dallas. Believe it or not, I actually I thought an upset was going to happen with Pittsburgh here, so I actually had Dallas winning. And moving on, I had Vegas up against Edmonton. This was a 7-game series, but I had the Golden Knights coming out on top of it. So my second round leads into my third. Boston up against the Golden Knights. Boston wins, but it's a very close series. St. Louis up against Dallas. St. Louis wins. Another close series. Colorado against Philly. Flyers unfortunately fight hard, but they go down to Colorado. And Tampa versus Washington. Tampa beats Washington. Final four, Boston versus Tampa. I think Tampa upsets Boston. St. Louis up against Colorado. Colorado upsets St. Louis. My Stanley Cup Finals is Tampa Bay versus Colorado, and I see Tampa taking the Stanley Cup for their second one in history. Ryan, do you have any objections to that?
I don't think there were any egregious picks or anything there, but I definitely would have knocked Colorado out a few rounds ago.
Okay.
I forget who the round matchup was, but I think I disagree there. I think Pittsburgh would beat Dallas. I like Philadelphia over Colorado. And I'm not as high on Tampa. I think Boston would take care of Tampa. But
All right,
this
then.
is fun. You know? This is why we do it.
Yeah. That is
For sure.
true. All right, Brian, what do you have going down for the rest of your bracket?
All right, I'm going to make this real simple. I'm just going to kind of jump to the semifinals and then into the conference finals.
Okay.
I got Vegas and Edmonton in the semifinals. I got the Jets and St. Louis as well in the semifinals. I have Boston and Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Columbus. Like I said, I see a deep run for Columbus coming here. I think they get a little bit of redemption for, was it last year that they played Pittsburgh? 2 years ago they played Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Going into the conference finals, I have Vegas and St. Louis. I have Vegas coming out of the West, Boston and Columbus. In the Eastern Conference Finals, Boston coming out there. And I think it's safe to say the Boston Bruins are the team to beat. I think they're the team that raises the cup this year.
All right, then. On to you, Ryan. What would you think about that bracket?
I tend to agree with the Boston pick being the team to beat. I like it. I don't know that I'd pick Vegas over St. Louis, but
To me,
I like
it's
the semis, you know?
yeah, no, absolutely. To me, I think it's going to be the goaltending that gets them past St. Louis. I mean, you got the experience from Marc-Andre Fleury, but if he tends to, be a little shaky, Robin Lehner has been a pretty solid goaltender over the last couple of years, and bringing him in as a backup at the trade deadline, I think, just does nothing but ensure then that if something does happen to Fleury, whether it be injury, whether it be just his play, you have a guy you can plug in, Robin Lehner, and feel pretty good about your chances.
Yeah.
All right, then. That leaves us to Mr. Povia.
Man, I just did this on the fly. Bear with me, and I'll be quick.
Okay.
Boston, Chicago. is the first matchup, which is a great first matchup, but I got to go with Boston there. St. Louis, Arizona, go St. Louis. Avs, Vancouver, I go Avs. Tampa Bay, Nashville, I go Tampa Bay. Capitals, Rangers, and I'm going with the blue shirts again to upset the Capitals there. Then we got Philly, Winnipeg. I got Flyers taking that one. Pittsburgh, Toronto. I got Pittsburgh taking that matchup. And Vegas, Golden Knights versus Dallas. I have Vegas taking that matchup. Moving on from that point, then we got Boston, New York, and this is where the Cinderella story ends for the Rangers. Boston wins that series. St. Louis, Vegas, Golden Knights, another primo matchup that we'll probably see in any form of fashion if we are blessed to have the playoffs. I'm going to go with the Vegas Golden Knights there to upset St. Louis. Then we got the Avs, Penguins. I know I've been high on the Avs, but to face the Penguins, a healthy Penguins team with strong goaltending, I'm going to go with Pittsburgh there to upset the Avs. And then we got Tampa Bay, Philadelphia. I've said it in past matchups. I don't like the way the Flyers match up against Tampa Bay, so I'm going to give the edge to Tampa Bay there in that matchup. Moving on from that point, let's see here. We have geez, wow. Then it'll be Vegas, Boston, right? Because I'm just intermixing the conferences, and I'm going to give Boston the slight edge there to take that series. St. Louis, Pittsburgh. I'm going to go with Penguins again there to upset the Blues and move on. And then finally would be Tampa Bay. Maybe I did this wrong. We're getting mixed up here. I think at this point I would have. Wait a minute, hold on. Rangers, Boston, Vegas, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Avs, Tampa, Philly. Oh, I got it. So Vegas, Boston. Yeah. So anyway, I have Tampa Bay moving on, and they face off against Boston, which would be a very weird Stanley Cup final. But that's my Stanley Cup final with the Tampa Bay Lightning winning it all.
All right, then. And on to Ryan on his judgment on that.
I like most of it, and I disagree with Vegas over St. Louis, and I disagree with Tampa over Boston. But I like the deep Pittsburgh run. I know that Matt's not a big Pittsburgh fan, but I think that if they're healthy, they could make a deep run for sure with the talent and the experience that they have on that team.
Right. St. Louis, you like over Vegas. What makes you believe in? I mean, they're the Stanley Cup champs. Get it, but what gives them the edge in that matchup, Ryan?
They just play such a tight style of hockey. Like, they're not going to give up a ton of good scoring chances to anybody. And they've just their depth, their defense is pretty much stacked at this point. They're getting great goaltending from Binnington. I don't know. I mean, they won the cup for a reason,
Right. You make great points. And in terms of a cup hangover, well, that would be non-existent now because of this long break of rest. You can see a team that just went all the way in the cup struggling in the following year's playoffs, but that's not going to be an issue if we should happen to have a playoffs this year.
Yeah, I think the only one hungover on that team was Rob Thomas.
Kind of like when the Capitals, the one who was hungover was Ovechkin. Of course, I think he was hungover for like 6 or 7 months after he won the cup. But anyway.
And he still put up a 45 goal season.
That's him hungover. Imagine if he's sober. But anyway. All right. So that will do it for those 31 team brackets. And, that'll do it for this show. For our esteemed guest, Mr. Ryan Clifford, once again, doing his sports writing, where can we find your works as well as your social medias?
I'm on Twitter at Ryan Clifford, and you can find my work on elitefantasy.com. Not right now, but when sports come back into session, you'll find my work over there.
I gotcha. All right then. Awesome.
One final point about Ryan too. Not sure if you wanted to get into it too much or not, Ryan. I wouldn't see why not, but some may or may not know that he's a dual threat as an analyst as well as lead vocals and guitarist for the Dave Matthews tribute band, which is hits home to me as a huge Dave Matthews fan. And from listening to Ryan and the band's music, what I love most about the band is they do the Dave songs excellently, but they don't just cover Dave Matthews. There's just a wide array of classic music out there to hear from the Dave Matthews tribute band. Real quick, Ryan, before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite Dave song to listen to, and what is your fave song to perform, and are they one and the same?
Yeah, I think they are. It's a song called "You Never Know." It's kind of like a deep track, but yeah, it's my favorite song to listen to and to perform. So.
Love it.
All right then. Well, we thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you again, and look forward to seeing some more articles when sports gets all started back up again, and have some fun watching some hockey, hopefully real soon.
Thanks, guys.
No problem, man. You have yourself a good evening.
All
right.
All right then. So with that, we will say a good night to everybody here on A2D Radio, as well as anywhere else that you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, as well as Twitter, on Periscope and Speaker, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all the other audio platforms that you can catch us there. We were brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. We were also brought to you by Ambuck Services. At some point, we're going to be allowed to go outside again and without a mask. And when we do, you're probably going to want to have some people over, have yourself a party, celebrate, hey, we survived, or what have you. Hopefully not that morbid. But, you know, either way, if you're having a party of some kind or a get-together of some kind and you want your lawn to look great, or you just want the gutters to be cleaned, or you just want to have a nice-looking front yard, backyard, and the trees trimmed and everything, Ambuck Services is the way to go. They can take care of anything that you need. Like I said before, they'll make the lawn look pretty. They'll have your house looking great. They'll have the gutters all cleaned for you. Everything will be set up for you. Ambuck Services. And you can find them by calling them at 856-879-5530. Ambuck Services. So with that being said, guys, we thank you all for joining us. Matt Tsudi, the Darkwing Brian Daly, the Broken One, Mr. Rob Povia, and our special guest, Ryan Clifford. We thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next week right here on A2DRadio.com. Peace, everyone.